Yeah, hello everyone. Let's look at this question. It's a question number 2. That is retained income note. So you need to do retained income note and cash flow and financial indicators. So it's only 35 marks, which is worth 25 minutes to complete. But let's see. The information relates to Swallows Limited for the financial ended 28 February 2023 are required prepare a retained income note for the year ended 28 February 2023. That's not number 8, so this will be note number 8. So prepare the retained income note for the year ended 28 February 2023. That's the retained income note, note number 8. Calculate the following figures for the 2023 cash flows. Change in the loan, proceeds from shares issued. Because of the marks that you're being allocated, it shows us pretty easy things to do. Complete the cash effects of operating activities section of the cash flow statement. Calculate the following financial indicators: current ratio, the net asset value, then percentage return on capital employed. That's return on total capital employed. Then note the average capital employed is 20,343,500. There's a whole lot of marks. They didn't ask you to comment either, so that should be simple information. Extract a statement of comprehensive income on 28 February 2023 at sales 12,754,500, depreciation 316,500,000, interest on loan 648,000, net profit after tax rate 30% on net profit. So this is net profit after tax at 1,526,000. Extract statement of financial position on 28 February. That is 28 February 2022 and 28 February 2023. So you are given 2 financial years. Ordinary share capital with the opening balance in 2022 and the closing balance 2023. Then retained income. Remember, you're supposed to calculate. You're supposed to do the retained income note number 8. Then loan, Daisy Bank. The movement in loan. Daisy Bank, you're given the opening balance and the closing balance. Then total current assets. You're given total current liabilities. Then shareholders for dividends, you're given the opening balance and the closing balance as well. SARS income tax. 2022 you had a SARS credit, and 2023 you had a SARS debit. Then share capital, 1,250,000 shares on hand on 1 March. These are opening number of shares, that were on issue or in issue. Then 180,000 shares repurchased on 1 May 2022. They do not qualify for dividends. Then an EFT of 1,989,000 was issued for the repurchase. Then shares issued on 1 October 2022 at 11.40 per share. Then closing number of shares 1,370,000 shares on hand on 28 February 2023. Then dividends. An interim dividend of 32 cents per share was paid on 31 August 2022. 31 August. So if you look at this date, 31 August, and the repurchase date 1 May, that means the dividends, when you calculate the total interim dividends, or the value of the interim dividends, you need to remove the shares that were repurchased, right? Because they even did specify that they don't qualify for dividend, right? They specified the shares don't qualify for the dividend. Okay, all right. Then a final dividend was declared on 28 February, right? So final dividend on 28 February will be this figure here, right? That's why they didn't tell you how much the final dividends, or how much percent per share was the dividend. They just told you the final dividend, so it will be the closing balance. Shareholders for dividends closing balance, right? And that will be our question, right? Okay, let's look at answering the question, right? Starting with the retained income note, right? We're given everything that we need, right? Okay, so basically they did input for us the opening balance, the net profit for the year. So now what we need to calculate is repurchases, right? Repurchases. Then if I come back to the question here, right, if I go to the repurchases, right, because if you look at the opening balance for the shares is 12,312,000, which is represented by 1,250,000 shares, right? For us to calculate the average price, remember, you reduce at average price. So the average price will be 12,312,000. That's 12,312,500 divided by 1,250,000. Right, let's quickly calculate. So that's 12,312,500 divided by 1,250,000. Right, so this will give you an average price of 9 rand 85 cents, right? That's the repurchase price. That's the average price on the day that the repurchase was made, right? On 1 May 2022. The average price of shares was 9 rand 85, but they repurchased these shares at the value of how much, right? We're not given, right? So what we need to do, we need to calculate the value, right? How much there is purchase each share for. So to calculate that as well, what we do is it's 1,989,000 divided by 180,000, right? So for us to get the value, right, the repurchase price per share, so that's 1,989,000 divided by 180,000. Right, this will give you a repurchase price. That's repurchase price per share of 11 rand and 5 cents. Right, so now since the shares were repurchased at a premium, right, so when you go to when you go to the income statement, right, not number 8, right, what you need to do, you need to take the premium portion of the shares, right? The premium portion, basically the price over and above the average price. So our average price is R9.85, but the shares were purchased at what, R11.05. Right, so the price of and above the average price, right, that's the premium. That's the one that goes to note number 8. So the repurchases here will be 180,000 multiplied by 11.05 minus 9.85. right, if you multiply right, 11.05 minus 9.85, that's 1.2. right, so this here will be 1.2. right, so 1.2 times 180,000, that's 216,000. right, then dividends. right, when it comes to dividends, you're told that the interim dividend is 32 cents per share, and we had 1,250,000 shares and 180,000 were repurchased, right? And they say the one that were repurchased, they don't qualify for the dividend, right? And the statement here, they don't qualify for the dividend. So what we do is to calculate the interim dividend, right? So here it's interim, right? Interim dividend, that's 1,250,000 minus 180,000. this multiplied by 0.32. Remember, it's 32 cents, right? So that will be 1,250,000 minus 180,000. right, this is then multiplied by 0.32. you get 342,400. then final dividend. right, for final, they just told you a final dividend was declared on 28 February 2023. right, so the final dividend will be the closing shareholders for dividends, because that will be the balance outstanding for shareholders for dividend. That is final dividend. Remember, the final dividend is declared after the end of the financial period, so it will be paid in the next financial period. So that's the dividend that will be owing. So it's 575,400. 575,400. right, the total, that's 0.08711.9. right, hope my calculation is correct. Then your final retained income note will be 237,400 plus 1,526,000 minus 216,000 minus 917,800. so that will be 629,600. right, that will be your retained income note. This is how it is, this is how simple it is, because the only challenging part that you normally get with retained income note, it's here on calculating repurchases, if they are repurchases, right? And that's the only part that may be of a challenge to most people. Then maybe calculating dividends as well, but mostly just straightforward, that you can easily calculate it. right, okay, all right, let's move to the next one. right, the next question, calculate change in loan. right, the change in loan, it's simple and straightforward. It's just basically you're given the loan here, right? The interest on loan, and give you an opening balance of loan and closing balance of loan, right? So because in that regard, we assume that since they gave you the closing balance, means if interest was being capitalized, they've taken into account already. So what you do, you just subtract opening balance minus closing balance, which is 7,200,000 minus 6,348,000. So that will be 7,200,000 minus 6,348,000. And this will give us 7,200,000 minus 6,348,000, 852,000. Right, then proceed from issue of shares. Right, for proceed on issue on shares, right, we'll need to say 1 million. I think it comes from here. I told the closing balance 1,370,000. Right, then we've got repurchase of 180, then the opening balance, so you just reverse it, right, which is 1,370,000 plus 180,000 minus 1,250,000 or 1,250,000. Then all this multiplied by 11 rand 40 cents, right, which is this one here, right? So this will give us 1,370,000 plus 180 minus 1,250,000, that will be 300,000 times 11 rand 40, that is times 1140, and this will give you 3,420,000. Right, then cash effects of operating activities. Cash generated from operations. Cash generated from operations is a note that is common, which has a lot of marks. Right, maybe I'll try find one that is that tomorrow. Right, okay. So you're given cash generated from operations. Right, then the next thing that comes is interest paid. Right, interest paid were given at 648,000. Right, that's an outflow. Then income tax paid. Right, income tax paid, we have we're told here, right, we have 30% of net profit. That's our tax rate, and we're given the opening balance of SARS income tax, which is credit, right, 42,100, and a debit closing balance, which is 26,300. So if it's a debit, that's an asset. If it's a credit, that's a liability. That means when it's debit, we've paid more tax than normal. So what we do is we need to calculate the 30%. That is part of the the 70%. Remember, this figure here represents 70%. Right, so this is equal to 70%, right, because our tax rate is 30%. So our net profit is 70% of profit before tax, right? So we need to calculate our 30%, right? Income tax for the year. So opening balance 42,100. That's 42,100 plus 30 that we want to calculate over 70 that were given times 1,526,000, right, plus. The reason why I'm saying it's plus because this is a tax debit. Right, if it was a credit, I will subtract the closing balance, but because we paid, this amount was paid, right? We paid the 23,600. That's why we have a tax asset, right? So plus is 23,600. Right, that's 23,600. So this will give us 30 divided by 70 times 1,526,000. So this will be equivalent to 654,000 plus 42,100 plus 23,600. So your income tax paid was 719,700 in outflow again. Then dividends paid. For this question, it's simplified. Right, so dividends paid, basically whatever you pay for dividend is the opening balance of the dividend and the interim. Those are the dividends paid, which can easily deduce from here. Right, the opening balance of the dividends is 475,000. The interim dividend, we calculated it right earlier in the question. Right, the interim calculated to be 342,400. Right, that's our interim. So we only need the interim and the opening balance, right? So the opening balance is 475,000 plus interim 342,400. So that will give us our dividend. But let's say you're given a total dividend, then you're given open balance. I'd obviously be given closing balance for we are given. So if that's the case, you say opening balance plus total dividend minus the closing balance to get how much was paid, because you just want to take out the closing balance because it's not yet what paid. Okay, so that will be 475,000 plus 342,400. That is 817,400. And again, please make sure all these are outflows, right? Just make sure you put them in brackets. Then the cash effects of operating activities, that will be 2 million. Cash generated from operations, 2,340,300 minus 648,000 minus 719,700 minus 817,400. So that will be an inflow of 155,200. Right, that's an inflow. If it's an outflow or if it's a negative, you put it in brackets as well. Moving along. Right, calculate ratio, current ratio. If you can't calculate current ratio given what you're given, I don't know. Right, current ratio basically is current assets is to current liabilities, and you are given here, and they told you, let me see, they said calculate current ratio. Did they tell us for which year? Right, let me check. You see what you need to pay attention to. Financial indicators on 28 February 2023. So you don't need to calculate for 2022, right? So for 2023, our current ratio, total current assets is 1,479,600. That is 1,479,600 is to current liabilities 822,000. Right, so you divide current liabilities into current assets, right? So that will be 1,479,600 divided by 822,000. right? That is 1.8 is to 1, right? That's why it's 2 marks. Then net asset value, right? It's 4 marks, right? Net asset value. So net asset value will be shareholders' equity divided by number of shares times 100 over 1, that's times 100 cents. So our shareholders' equity in this question, right, it's ordinary share capital plus retained income. So our ordinary share capital is 30,959,500. That is 13,959,500, right? Plus we calculated our retained income, 629,600, right? That's closing balance, 629,600. All divided by shares, that's 1,370,000 times 100 over 1, right? These shares, we have looked at them, right? It's this balance here, right? That's the closing balance, right? Calculating that's 13,959,500 plus 629,600, right? Divided by 1,370,000, then times 100. So basically this will give you 1,064 cents. $1,064. Right, so that will be your net asset value. And these formulas you are given actually, but the only problem is you're not told which formula is what. You're just given formulas, so it's as good as they are not there. You need to remember them at least, but you see them, you remember what it is for, but they are not labeled, right? This is current ratio, acid test ratio, return on shareholders equity, or return on total capital employed, like the one that you're not told, but you just need to know by looking at the formula. The formulas are not labeled anyway, so you still need to know the formulas, or which formula is for which, right? Otherwise you just look at formulas and they're clueless what's happening as well, right? So then calculating percentage return on total capital employed, right? Total capital employed, mostly it's total assets. No, it's ordinary share capital plus long-term liability. That's total capital employed. If you are to calculate it, right? So total capital employed, that will be ordinary share capital plus long-term liability, that is things like loan, right? Non-current liabilities. And most of the times you use average capital employed, right? And it will be opening and closing, but in this question they gave us the average capital employed, right, to be 20,343,500. So we need to find out what's the numerator. So the formula will be net profit before interest and tax divided by average capital employed. Capital employed basically shareholders equity, shareholders ordinary share capital plus non-current liabilities, right? That's capital employed. So you find the average, but here we're given the average, right? Then in our question, right, we have 1,526,000 is our profit. Then the taxation, I think we have used them, we used all of them here. Right, interest paid is 648,000, taxation is 654,000. So that will be plus 648,000 plus 654,000. So this is interest paid. That's interest paid, and that's income tax. Right, all divided by 20,343,500, right, and that will give you times 100 over 1. That's a percentage, right? So we'll have 1,526,000. If you're given profit before interest and tax, you don't need to do all this, because you are given already. Because the reason why I added these ones, because I was given profit after tax on net profit for the year, so I need to add income tax, I need to add interest, right? So 1,526,000 plus 648,000 plus 654,000, right? That's 2,828,000 divided by 20,343,500, then multiplied by 100. So that will be basically 13.9%. So it was a simple and straightforward question that you could easily run through it and get maximum marks. So yeah, I wish you all the best. If you watch this before you write your first paper, that should be on in 2 days time. So if you watch this before your final paper, I wish you the best of luck on your paper 1, and just be focused, be confident, and give it your best. That's what you can never give up, right? If one question is too difficult, move to the next question. You come back to that question later on, and you keep going, rather than wasting time on a question that you really can't understand. Sometimes you confuse yourself in one question and end up not completing half of the paper. So once you figure that, no, I can't figure out what's happening, you move on to the next question, so that you can at least try by all means to complete 100% of the paper. Okay, so please make sure you subscribe and share with others as well.